everyone. I hope you can hear me and see me. Rise and shine. I am Nikki Alici. I'm the events coordinator at Ellevate Network, and I am your host for today. Thank you so much for joining us for this session of Mobilize Women Week, morning yoga and conversations featuring Zara Barnes and Jessamine Stanley. Mobilize Women is a movement based on Ellevate Network's purpose of achieving equality for all. And we work towards equality by giving diverse voices, and particularly those of women, a seat at the table when decisions. Thank you so much for. So for those of you that are not familiar with Ellevate, we are a coalition of ambitious, supportive women and allies who show up for each other to mobilize to change the culture of business. And we believe that no matter what your goals are or what challenges you're facing, having people you can turn to is invaluable. And today we believe highlighting diverse voices, opinions, and stories is more important than ever. Because of the times we're living in now, we couldn't host our usual in-person full-day summit, so we put together a perhaps even better week-long virtual experience where you'll have a chance to engage in candid discussions with some of today's most thought-provoking leaders. This event lies at the center of our mission. It's through Mobilize Women that we take the time to reflect on our own journey, commit to making a mark on our workplaces, and to using our voices and power across the community at large. After all, change does not happen magically. It's up to all of us to do it. During today's session, we will be joined by incredible speakers, and there will be time for them to answer your questions at the end. But a few housekeeping notes before we start. Please use the chat to engage with each other and our speakers. Drop quotes, helpful links to life-changing books, websites, apps, etc. We're all one big community showing up, so let's get to connecting. Also post your questions in the Q&A box for the moderator to see. And click the closed captions icon to toggle them on so you can read along if you need to. If need be, if you run into trouble, you can privately message the Ellevate team. You can find us in the participant list with Ellevate in our names. And we are recording the session and streaming to Ellevate's Facebook page. And the recording will be posted to the Ellevate site for our members to view as an evergreen resource. And on that note, did you know that you can become a free member today? So check out ellevatenetwork.com to see how. And last but not least, please go to mobilizewomen2020.com to have a true Mobilize Women experience where actions speak louder than words. Find the learn, act, engage activities for each session and share your pictures and post with each other from your part of the universe. And use the hashtag Mobilize Women to share what you're learning. We're big, we're global, but we're always in this together. So thank you for tuning in. And now please welcome Jessamine Stanley, the founder of Underbelly Yoga, and our moderator, Zara Barnes, executive editor for Self Magazine.
Thank you so much, Nikki. I am so excited about this event. And Jessamine, hi, good morning. I cannot wait to talk about all things yoga and wellness and self-care with you, and of course, inclusivity in these spaces. But to get us started, I have a pretty basic question, which is, how are you doing?
That is the question today, man. That's the question of our lives right now. And I mean, thank you all so much for having me. And thank you, Zara, for being here. I'm very excited to chat with you as well. How am I doing? I mean, I think that generally I'm just kind of going with each moment, trying not to, I think the biggest lesson for me as an entrepreneur, as a wellness practitioner, as a yoga practitioner at this point, it's just to try to stand in each moment exactly as it is and try not to obsess over how close or far away it is from what I want to be happening. I think that so much dissatisfaction for myself comes from obsessing over how things need to be, or like how I want for things to be. And there's this great necessity that the universe is just compelling all of us to, which is just go with it. Just go with it. And so, today I think that I'm feeling good, but I think that just like anyone else, I'm very heavy with the weight of the world right now. But at the same time, I think there is a really beautiful kind of optimism that comes whenever we are forced to just it's like, there's something that happens when things are dark. It's like, yeah, so you have to hope for something more. And so that optimism I find to be very inspiring. And so in that way, I think I'm good. I'm good. How are you?
Thank you for asking. I am also good, kind of going with the flow. And what you just said resonates with me so much, because one of the things I have really been trying to do is let myself feel what I'm feeling and not get upset with myself for feeling very valid feelings right now. Pretty much everything is valid given what we're going through. And one of the practices that has actually really helped me kind of come to terms with my feelings is yoga. Surprise, surprise. I had not really been into yoga before the pandemic, and now doing it pretty much every morning. Yeah, I'm with you. I am one of you. I am obsessed with it now. And one thing that I find so funny and relatable about your own journey with yoga is that you described your first experience with it as hell on earth. And same, I have been there. And I feel like a lot of people have maybe an initial block with yoga.
Totally.
Yeah. And so I'm just wondering, first of all, what brought you back into it? Because clearly you got back into it. And also, if you have any advice for anyone who is nervous or intimidated, maybe even someone who's watching right now and is kind of excited about the yoga we're about to do.
Hell yeah. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much for asking about this, because I do think that this is something that is like, it's so common that people will be like you try yoga, or somebody, usually what happens is like you have a friend that's like really into yoga or something, and they're like, oh my God, you should give it a try. And then you go and you're like, okay, I don't feel calm here. Like, this is really hard. Everything about this is annoying. The teacher is pissing me off. Like, everything about this is dreadful. And so I like, really identify with that experience. And I think that sometimes when you go to class, or even especially even in an online environment, you think like everybody else must have never felt this way. And it's like, nah, bitch, everybody has felt this way. So my first time ever practicing yoga, I was in high school. My aunt she was really into Bikram yoga at the time. And she was like, oh my God, go to yoga, you're gonna love it. And I mean, I was just on summer vacation, and I was like, I'll just go to this yoga class with her, whatever. And it was awful. Oh my God. It was so, it's Bikram yoga, it's a style of hot yoga. It was like 100-ish degrees in the room. It was like all of the postures just seemed completely impossible. And I left like maybe a third of the way through the class, and I was like, I'm not doing this again. I'm good on it. So whenever people are like, yeah, I tried yoga, it sucks, I'm like, yeah, no, I feel you. I had that exact feeling. But when I was in graduate school, I was going through a period of depression that honestly is just, if you have been in your early 20s, you have felt what I was feeling at that time. In my book, Everybody Yoga, I go into more detail about it. So if you're curious, it's there. But generally, I was on the darker side of things. And one of my friends was like, she had drunk the Bikram Kool-Aid, and she was like, oh my God, come to Bikram yoga, you're gonna love it. And I was like, I'm not doing that. I already know I don't like it. But truth be told, she got me caught up on a Groupon. She was like, you know, you just spend $20 and maybe you go one time. And I was like, okay, that's fine. So I went, and it was still, I mean, it was impossible. The posture seemed impossible to me. It felt like everybody else had rehearsed beforehand together, and that I had missed the rehearsal or whatever. Like I wasn't able to practice the postures comfortably. But it really offered me an opportunity to just be like, I'm just going to do this. And like, maybe the other people in the room are going to see that I've never done it before. And the teacher is going to see that I've never done it before. And like, I'm going to be, I'm just going to give it up to the universe that is how I'm going to feel right now. And really, that idea of just try, just don't even worry about what it looks like, just try. That was so transformational for me. It's something that resonates it's way bigger than any kind of yoga posture or anything that you practice on a yoga mat specifically. It's really at that time especially, but I think just generally, it really pushed me outside of these boundaries that I decided for myself. I decided that I was only able to do certain things in my life, and yoga pushed me to see myself as more than that. And I say that because I think that, you know, you asked what advice I would have for somebody who's maybe it's your first time ever practicing yoga, or maybe you practiced yoga before and you thought it was dumb, but you like just thought you'd come to morning yoga or whatever. You're like, man, I'm gonna give this a shot. First of all, I feel you. We're kindred spirits. And if that's you, like, my only advice really is to just go with it. If that means that you have to like just watch me, and you're just gonna watch the practice, and that's gonna be your practice today, that is the most beautiful practice of yoga. The hardest postures really are the postures that ask us to do the opposite of what we want to do. And a lot of times we'll be in motion or talking or whatever, because that is easier than just being still. So I say that to say that perhaps the posture today is to just lie on your back in corpse pose. That might be plenty practice today. That is a very difficult posture. And so I think that as long as you just go with what feels natural, and it's actually like kind of sick to be able to do it at home and like not in an environment. This is why I'm always emphasizing the home practice over everything. Because like, if you just practice, if you're just in your space, and like the only person that's going to see you fall down is the dog, you know what I mean? Or like your kid or whoever. And so like, you're good. I mean, I think that if you just let yourself go with it, you'll enjoy it.
I love that lesson so much, because I feel like it does take a level of kind of being okay with feeling like you look stupid, or feeling stupid when you're trying something, and just being fine with it. And speaking of trying things, I'm wondering, you know, so many of us are picking up new hobbies and new habits in this time. As you mentioned, we're kind of forced to get creative right now. So I'm wondering if there's anything new that you have picked up, anything new you're adding to your self-care routine.
Totally. I mean, a few different things. And the main thing that's really popping up for me, honestly, is gardening. It's something that I have always been very, because so before the pandemic, I was traveling like 3 weeks out of the month. So it's very hard to really feel like a lot of connection to my home space. And so like I would come home and then just be like, I'm here just for a few days, and I'm at the office, I'm working, I'm doing whatever, and like I'm not just grounding at my house. And the pandemic was like, skirt, you need to be at your house and you need to chill. And so a part of that is that I had plants around my house, but it was kind of a miracle that they were staying alive. I was like, I'm not really like putting myself into them. And there's just so many lessons that the plants really impart. For me anyway, I feel like they teach me a lot about life, and about death, about vitality, about honesty. And it's something that it's a practice, like just putting my hands in the soil when I can, and repotting things, and you know, paying attention to them, but also not paying attention to them. And it's teaching me a lot about patience. And I think that I really feel like a lot of the things that we are getting from this experience are things that we really needed. Like I needed to slow down. I needed to look inside in a different way. I think that so in a lot of ways I just feel like there are a lot of blessings. And what you said about starting a practice during quarantine, I was just like, it's such a blessing that so many people would turn to this practice when it's really preparing us for everything that was always happening, is always happening. It's just we have a bit of a microscope on it right now.
Definitely. And I will be honest, I am very jealous that you can keep plants alive. I'm able to see my dried eucalyptus, because I have just
I'm here for it. That's it.
I've accepted it. It needs to be dried. Someone needs to preserve it for me. I am not going to keep it alive. And you mentioned slowing down right now. I'm wondering if that has changed your experience with yoga, if yoga maybe serves a different purpose for you right now than it has before.
Mm. You know, I feel like every moment that I practiced before now was preparation for this, because I think that I had I had gotten to a place with yoga where, okay, let me back up actually. So when I first started practicing, yoga was just about like, it was just like this exercise thing that I did sometimes, and like I really liked it. I definitely felt like there were benefits beyond the physical. Like I felt good when I practiced, but I didn't care about it beyond like what it was doing to me, how it made my body feel. And then sometime around the time that I did my teacher training and started teaching regularly, around that time, I started to understand my practice as something that I'm not always doing on a yoga mat, and that really like I'm practicing all the time, that the same balance and core strength and stability that I'm seeking in like a chair pose or a warrior two, that's the same kind of balance and stability that I'm looking for in hard conversations with people, in when I have road rage, like when I'm struggling in life. And I think that for some years, I've been trying to cultivate a deeper relationship with my practice, where it's like the time that I spend on the mat is kind of, it's just not as important as the time that I spend off of my mat. But nothing like a pandemic to throw that all the way in perspective, because it definitely has made me realize that like, no, I just have to do this as a way to survive at this point. Because I think that so much of what has been brought to light for me is that these, like I was saying before, I think that you're moving too fast, but it's also like these systems that we this big we that we look to for validation, those systems can't hold us. And so we can't look outside of ourselves for the worth that is always existing inside of ourselves. And so, and that to tune into that, it's necessary to do that like literally every day, because like it doesn't matter how much you practiced on one day, it doesn't matter how much you thought about it, like there's always going to be something, because we're always changing and there's always something new, and that's just the nature of life. And I think that standing in that and really owning that and submitting to the practice as more like, I really at this point, I feel like my practice is closer to brushing my teeth than anything else. It's kind of like, you wake up and you're like, oh, I don't really feel like doing all of these self-care things. Like I don't feel like brushing my teeth, I don't feel like doing these things, but you have that taste in your mouth and you're like, God, it's an awful taste in my mouth. That is what it feels like to not practice. It's like having a bad taste in your mouth, but in your spirit. So it's like, it's helpful to just come to it, because then in that way, it means that you can just practice like a little bit. You don't have to practice. Like I tend to feel as though if I practice 30 minutes every day, that's great. And that's every day is my thing. Like for some people, it might be like you practice 30 minutes every other week or something. Like you just make it work for where you are. And that's medicine, even just the smallest dose of that medicine is so crucial.
I love this idea of just meeting yourself where you are. I feel like with self-care, it can feel like so much pressure, and like you have to create these goals for yourself and constantly be pushing yourself forward. And that actually makes me think about your latest installment of your column for us at Self Magazine, where you talk about breath work and how revolutionary and deeply, deeply gratifying it can be to just focus on your breath. And I was so drawn to this idea because self-care can often seem like it has to be a 15-step process and you have to be scared and it has to take a ton of time. So this idea that some days, sometimes it is complicated, like if you're finding a therapist, epitome of complicated, epitome of self-care, but just focusing on your inhales and exhales, that also counts.
Exactly. And that is really the heart of everything, that everything comes from finding that inhale and exhale. And I mean, I have had suffer, I don't like to use the word suffer, but I have anxiety attacks and panic attacks. And one of the things that is always so, when it sets in for me, it's always like, just breathe, just breathe. Just try to find a way to breathe. And when someone says that to me when I'm in the midst of a panic, I'm like, nobody asked you. Like, I don't care about taking a breath. But then later, I'm always like, oh my God, that was the whole thing. That was all that matters, just breathe. And so I feel like if you can just focus on breathing all the time, even when it seems like there's a bigger hurdle, it'll be like, because you're right. I mean, I think the self-care seems unnecessarily complicated. It's like, it'll be like, well, I have to do this thing, I have to do that thing, I have to do that thing. And it's like, yeah, you can do all of that, but first, just try to take a breath and just try to like, but I think there also has to be a part of that that's like accepting when and why you can't take a breath, and the moments where it's like, it's real. I mean, I think that a huge part of being able to really live a lot of this is actually accepting the moments where it is difficult and where it feels like too much. But I think that self-care specifically, especially because self-care is often defined as like acts that you do to your body as opposed to just like a state of being. Like, I feel like my most important self-care is not spending time around people who drain my energy. And it doesn't have anything to do with like a face mask or like taking time, even finding a therapist. It's not even about that. It's literally just like, think about the things that actually are providing, try to notice the things that are creating tension in your life. And it's hard to do that. It's hard to even get there if you're not breathing.
Absolutely. So we have a couple of minutes left before we get to the audience questions. And I wanted to talk about the underbelly a little bit.
Hey.
And this, I do love your sweatshirt. It looks extremely cozy and the logo is so cute. So, you know, this stance that you have carved out at the underbelly, that yoga is not about body type, it is so resonant for so many of us. But at the same time, I feel like a lot of people have trouble really believing it and really allowing themselves to believe they deserve, you know, to subscribe to that. So do you have any advice for anyone who wants to believe that yoga is not about body type, but is having trouble focusing on how they feel rather than how they look?
You know, I think we're always looking for like a quick fix or looking for a shortcut or something. And so I want to preface what I'm going to say by saying that I don't really see a shortcut to self-realization. And part of actually like noticing, actually feeling better and feeling like it's okay to just give it a shot, it's okay to be okay with myself, is actually noticing the things that we say to ourselves that are inhibiting that kind of self-acceptance. And the only thing that's ever really been effective for me is actually like coming to terms with the awful things that I say and think and really believe about myself. Because I think that we can, you know, you want to blame it on someone else or blame it on something else. It's the media, it's family, it's friends, it's whatever, whoever. But I think that actually acknowledging like, no, I think these things about myself, that for me has been really transformational. And that's really the only advice that I can offer to deal with that. And to be more specific, when I first started taking yoga practice, I would look at my body and I would just be like, oh my God, like look at the photos and be like, oh my God, look at my stomach, look at my arms, chins, like whatever, all these things that we say about ourselves that we think are totally normal. And it took a long time for me to realize that like, I'm the one saying these things about myself. Like no one else is here saying these things. This is me. And I think that adopting some kind of practice like that, it doesn't have to have anything to do with moving. It doesn't have to do with yoga at all. You don't have to show the photos to anyone else, but adopting some kind of practice like that would be my advice. But to speak specifically to the yoga piece and how people are like, because there is this, I mean, why wouldn't you think that yoga is only for essentially for thin white women? Because that's the only image that is portrayed in the mainstream at all. And the reality is that yoga has nothing to do with body size, like nothing. Yoga is about breathing and using the breath to yoke together the light and the dark of the self, period. Like it doesn't have anything to do with body size. And I think that the way to kind of get in there and dig into that ideology is to just think about how much of yoga culture is just fitness culture dressed up in Lululemon leggings. Like, and fitness culture, so much of it is like, it's like cis het masculinity, like, and then basically who they want to have sex with. Like it's all about patriarchal and heteronormative roles, and really like specifically white supremacist ideology as well. And I think that actually knowing that and accepting that and seeing the ways in which that ideology has infected the yoga world, that's how you can start to come to terms with the fact that like, maybe yoga is for everybody. Actually, maybe it doesn't matter if you can put your foot behind your head, or like if you ever, are able to practice downward facing dog without blocks, or like whatever the thing is, because every way that your body presents, every way that you show up, every single way that you practice a yoga posture is perfect. Like every way, even if the way, like I was saying before, even if the way that you're practicing it is just watching somebody else practice it, that is a perfect expression of yoga. And if you just show up to class with that, if the teacher says something to you, if somebody in the class is like, oh, well, that's you're not doing yoga right, and like they're dealing with their own stuff that has nothing to do with you, because and if you are in that kind of environment, bounce and subscribe to the underbelly, because we're not going to be like that there. But you know what I mean, it's like there's some stuff that we have to accept about the way that yoga is presented to the mainstream, and how that has absolutely nothing to do with what the practice actually is.
That is so much to meditate on. Thank you. Lots of insight to get us started. And we have a couple of audience questions. Thank you all so much for submitting all of these great questions and talking so much about everything Jessamine has shared. So to get us started, what type of yoga do you recommend to start with? We're older, dealing with a lot of stress beyond COVID, and think the mental aspect and stretching may help my husband and me. Plus, I like the idea of learning together. It's very sweet.
Hell yeah. I mean, literally, I would say you could really practice any type of yoga. And I know that's not helpful. I know it's like, because some people really enjoy something that is a little bit slower. Some people really enjoy something that is faster. I started practicing with a practice that is pretty physically intense, but it's also a practice that is practiced by, it was developed by someone out of injury. Like they developed the sequencing that is really complex because they were trying to heal their body. And so I think there's a lot that if you say like, okay, if you get a recommendation for a class, that's really where I would start, is that if you have a friend or know somebody who really likes a teacher, because the teacher is such a huge part of it, regardless of what lineage or what style it is. So I feel like if you get a recommendation, go with that. If you don't like that recommendation, move on to another recommendation and just go that way. I do think that if you are looking for something where you can practice like, that maybe it's not going to be so much about endurance-based activity. I think like a more traditional hatha style class, like a class where you're just going to practice like posture by posture, maybe an Iyengar style class. Iyengar is actually amazing for anyone who is healing their body or who is just wanting to find lots of different ways to modify postures and to move through them. But I also just, I mean, I think that you could, I say that, and then you might find like a high intensity vinyasa flow, like hit and inspire flow, and just be all about it. So it's like, you know, you just go in for whatever makes sense, and try lots of different things. And I think that really blending the practices together and letting that be the basis for it, as opposed to, because there's no one way that's better than anything else.
Definitely. And we have time for—
oh, and guys, can I add one thing to that also? And if you find a yin class, yin might also be like exactly what you're looking for. Okay, that's it, please.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. That was a lot of recommendations. I appreciate that. So for our last question before we get into our own morning yoga, what do you recommend for someone who likes yoga but is impatient because of the inherent slowness of it? I think that's a thing that a lot of people experience.
Totally. Did you say something about that earlier, that like that you thought it was slow? Maybe I'm thinking, I might have.
Maybe it was like ESP. I did think it was slow. Yeah.
That's how I felt too. I was like, so before my aunt got me to go to class, I was like, yoga is boring. Like, it is slow. I don't care about this. And so to that person, I would say, maybe you should go to a faster class, because then you will learn just how not boring yoga is. But I think that what tends to happen over time, even if you really enjoy like a high endurance kind of practice, you always kind of get to a place where you recognize that first of all, there's no way to master any of this. There's no way to master the postures. You're always going to be learning. And so there's so much, it's like reading a good book over and over again. There's so much magic in going slowly and just like getting into the details. You get in, like, you can crawl all the way up in and around what a posture is by going slowly, and allowing it to be about like just how much can I move from the inside of myself, as opposed to trying to move from the outside. It just gets into this whole psychological experience that I think is really amazing. But I also think when you just start practicing yoga, you're like, yeah, this is boring. I'm not here for this. I'm not trying to do this. And that's cool too. That's important too. And I think that just making space for however you are today, and just letting that be okay, is the key. Because there is a different way to practice. There are so many different ways to practice yoga, like literally there are an endless number of ways, and they're all good. They're all right. It's all an opportunity to learn something new about yourself and about the universe.
Okay, what a perfect note to end on, and to really get into our own yoga practice this morning. I have absolutely loved chatting with you. Thank you so much. It's been great. And I am going to turn off my camera because no one came here to watch me teach yoga. And I will let you take it away. Thank you, Jessamine.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It was so lovely chatting with you. And I'm going to pin my video so that I can not be awkward. All right, guys. So I'm going to move back to where my mat is. Back here. And we are going to practice. This is just going to be like a pretty, I mean, I say beginner friendly, but it's really just like, it's a good like get out of bed practice. A lot of times I think that I personally prefer to practice yoga in the morning, because it really, especially in the era of coronavirus, because literally like the way that you start your day is usually the energy that you're going to carry with you throughout the whole day. And so when you start the day by like grounding and stretching out the spine and letting go of anything that you held on to while you were sleeping, which like everybody does, we're all constantly doing that. And I think that like anything that you can do to just stretch it out first thing in the morning You don't even have to do it for that long. We're going to be practicing for max of like 26 minutes, right? So like it's not really that deep. It can sometimes be as simple as just one posture that can make the difference. One of my favorite teachers, Tara Judell, she talks about this, and she's like, when you wake up, you're carrying all of these aches and pains, and then you just walk through your day and you're just carrying those aches and pains with you. Like, it's a lot, especially now. So we got to stretch ourselves out so we can be more present in the now. So my yoga mat, if you don't have a yoga mat, it's not that big of a deal. Please don't feel pressed about it or like you need to do anything. And I have a couple of props here. I have a yoga strap here. I'm sitting on my yoga blocks. I'm going to aim to not really use them that much because I want to show you just how much you don't really need props. But if you want to grab any props after this, you can go to the shop at the Underbelly and get literally all the yoga props that I have here. I have 2 blocks and a strap. If you wanted to make a block low key, you could just get a couple of big books. If you have some boxes, you can turn over a trash can, get a side table. Anyway, whatever. The point I'm making is that you can make anything into a block. And your shirt is a strap waiting to happen. So actually, speaking of shirts, I'm going to take mine off and let's start out on our backs. So I know that you go to sleep every day, and so you're like, Jessamine, I know how to lay down. Like, I don't need to be coached through this, but humor me. Just, we're just gonna go slow together. So come down onto your butt. Your feet are on the ground, the knees point up. You bring your hands back behind the backs of your thighs. Oh, relax your shoulders. Relax the crown of your head. Hollow out your belly, round your spine, and just slowly roll down onto your back. Just take your time. Go nice and easy with it. Lie down on your back. Beautiful, beautiful. And so you've got your feet on the ground, knees pointing up. Take your hands to the back of your head and just gently pick up the back of your head. You can interlace your fingers and make a little cradle for your neck with your thumbs. And just shake out your neck a little bit. Breathing, breathing. And then let your head come back down to the ground. Now bring your hands to the tops of your thighs, and I'm gonna reach my hands up underneath my belly fat. So I got my hands inside my leggings. You get intimate. Spread wide through the hands, through the fingers, and just gently press the flesh away. Gently press that flesh away. Walk it out just a touch. And then once you find stillness there, if you've got a little boob choke action going on, a little chest meat coming up into your throat, bring your hands to the tops of your cleavage and just gently press the flesh away. Gently press away. And then let your arms fall open by your sides. Now this might be perfect. Have your feet on the ground, knees pointing up. This might be more than enough. If you want to go for a little hip opening action, you can bring the soles of your feet together, let the knees knock out. Let the thighs open up. You can extend the legs towards straight. This is full posture. Or you can keep the feet on the ground, knees pointing up. It's different for everybody. What you need right now might not be like the person next to you, might not be like the person next to you on Zoom, might not be like anybody else because it's what you need. Breathe. And just as you're ready, let your eyes close. And you'll find that there are little spots in your body little spots where stillness comes very slowly. Might be your wrists, the tops of your thighs, your ankles, the back of your throat. Let everything be as it is. Let every piece of yourself arrive here. Not only some pieces, not just the things you like, let everything you don't like arrive here as well. And as you're here, allowing every piece to settle, just start to notice the way your breath moves through your body. Notice that in some spaces, the breath is very tight. Notice that in some places, it's shallow. And without applying much pressure, find that the breath comes in through your nose and then goes out through your nose. Give in to this breath. Let it be your only focus, your only goal, your only need. Just following the cadence of your spirit. And then as you're ready, draw your knees into your chest. You don't need to open your eyes. You just draw them into your chest. And you may just leave your arms splayed open. You might grab up the thighs behind the backs of the thighs. You might interlace the fingers around the shins, maybe grab for the wrists or the elbows. But however it feels good, just pull yourself into your little egg and roll from side to side. Roll left to right and then right to left. We're coming back to that time in life before we had responsibilities, before we had to wear a mask. Coming back to the time when all we did was just roll around on our backs. You might roll over to the right side, a little tight spot, and rock into that. Maybe the left side, same thing. Try to keep your shoulders relaxed. Try to keep your pelvis relaxed. We're still that little baby all the time, still that baby deep inside. And then let's turn it into a little twist. Drop the arms out to either side. Drop the knees over to the right, gaze over to the left, and just breathe. We're just saying hello to spinal rotation. So you relax that left shoulder open. And you can kind of, my right shoulder gets kind of tucked under. You can kind of scoop that right shoulder out. And to the first couple breaths, you're like, okay, I'm here. Jessamine can see that I'm here. I'm doing it right. Okay, you're good. Just breathe now. Let it get sloppy. Let your thighs fall over. You can bring your right hand on top of the left thigh. Relax that gaze over to the left. Really look in the direction of your fingertips, even with eyes closed. Look. And then when you're ready, come back up through center. Just take your time. Really let it happen organically. And then drop the knees over to the opposite side, over to the left. Gaze over to the right. Relax that right shoulder down and breathe. And so there's a lot of little micro adjustments that I personally like to do. I like to pick up my belly off my thighs. Makes so much space, man. It's crazy. Really relaxing the kneecaps down to the ground so that the hips are able to pull up and open even more. You can bring that left hand on top of the right thigh. Breathing, relaxing that right ear down to the mat. Looking in the direction of those right fingertips. Breathing. The breath is the conductor. The breath will tell you where you need to go. And then when you're ready, you just take your time with it. Let's come back up through center. Nice and easy. Pull it back up. And then from here, we're just going to rock up onto hands and knees. So you just take your time getting there. It does not need to be dignified or anything like that. You just make your way up. We're just going to rock forward, up and over. You're going to put your little paws up, and we're going to rock forward on the hands and knees. So again, it don't need to be dignified. Just find your way up, rocking forward, plant the hands, and come about halfway back on your mat. Mat, no mat, literally whatever. So you're going to bring your knees underneath your hips, the shoulders underneath or over the wrists. And you just rock back and forth, finding that alignment. And really extend. It's like you have a string coming out the crown of your head and then straight out through your butthole. So you're just pulled along through your torso. Release your jaw. Release your sits bones away from one another. Release your butt cheeks away from one another. Spread wide through your fingers. Plug into your knuckles. Breathe. If this is a lot on your knees, you can grab a blanket and slide that up underneath. You can roll the edges of your mat over so you get a little cushion underneath your knees. You can also do this exact same thing sitting on your butts, hands on your knees or hands on your shins, whatever makes the most sense to you. But from here, we're just going to come into cat pose alternated with cow pose. So let's start with cow pose. On the inhale, we're going to drop the belly down, drop the heart down, look up. If you're on your butt, you're pulling the chest forward and you're looking up. Exhale, curl the spine, round the back, shake out the head and the neck, cat pose. Shake that out. Let's do it again just like that. Inhale, drop the belly down, drop the heart down, let the gaze come up, look up. Exhale, curl the spine, round the back, shake out the head and the neck. Now keep going like this at your own pace. So your inhale, drop the belly down, drop the heart down, let the gaze come up, you look up. Exhale, curl the spine, round the back, shake out the head and the neck. So this is where you can start to remix it. You can keep going like that, like I just showed, or you can push your ribs over to the right, drop the belly down, push the ribs over to the left, curl the spine. You make these little spirals. So you figure out what makes the most sense for you. You might pull into like an upward facing dog or a cobra, let the pelvis be heavy, arms come towards straight. You might shift the hips back toward a child's pose. Just turn this cat pose, cow pose into whatever you need. We spend so much of our lives pretending to be robots. We sit at desks, we hunch over devices, we don't leap, we don't run, we don't claw the ground in the way that human beings are meant to. Human beings are wild animals. This is your time to get to that wild animal, the being that maybe you can't take to work, might be too hot for work, but this is someone and something that is needed in this world. This wild energy inside of you is needed. When you're ready, come back to a neutral spine. Just find your way there and then come on forward onto your belly. You just take your time getting there. Again, Dignity is overrated. You really don't, it's not that deep. Don't worry about it. So you're gonna come onto your belly and let the arms come out parallel to the ground. You just take out space, little airplane style. Let's just get into a little shoulder opening. So from here, we're gonna roll onto the left side of your body. You just roll onto it. Left side, the legs are gonna stack on top of each other. And honestly, but truthfully, this might be more than enough. You might get here and be like, I got plenty. If you want though, you flip the palm of the left hand up to the sky. Again, this might be more than enough. This might be plenty. You've got your right hand here like a little kickstand, and you can use that to keep rolling the shoulder open, keep rolling the chest open. Let your head be heavy. Let your head come down to the ground as much as you can. If you need to put some cushion here, you can roll up the edge of your mat like this. You can grab a yoga block. You can take a pillow off the couch, whatever you got handy. But you roll yourself forward, and you roll so much so that that right leg steps behind the left leg, and you step onto the right foot. The right knee comes up to the ground. This might be more than enough. This might be more than what you're looking for. If you want, if it feels good, reach that right arm up to the sky and then reach it back behind you. Don't press yourself. You know what I mean? Like, this is plenty. You reach in the direction of your left fingertips. If it's there, interlace your fingers. Inhale, exhale. Breathe here. And then use that grip, if you've got the interlace of the fingers, to roll the chest open, roll the shoulders open, and keep rolling the spine open so that that left foot comes onto the ground, knees pointing up. Breathe. Let your head and your neck be heavy. Breathe. Relax your shoulders. Really smile the left corner of your heart out and into the world. Take one more breath just like this. Very nice, guys. And then let's come on back onto the belly. Just take your time getting there. It's no rush. No rush. Come on down to the belly just the way you came. Very nice. Come on back. We're just saying hello to the body. It's really just saying hello. Now let's go on to the other side. So we're going to roll onto the right side, shoulders stack on top of each other, legs stack on top of each other. The left hand is like a little kickstand. You let that head relax as much as possible. Grab a block or a pillow or whatever you got handy. And then from here, flip that right palm up to the sky. This might be plenty. If you want, keep rolling so that that left foot comes onto the ground behind you. Breathe, breathe. Just assess yourself here. See if you've lost your breath and find your way back to it. If it feels good, bring the left arm up into the air. Reach up, and then drop that left arm behind, interlace the fingers, keep rolling so that that right foot comes onto the ground, knees pointing up, breathing. Releasing into the shoulders. That space right in between the shoulder blades is melting. It's pumping through your heart. That right corner of the heart peeking out. And then when you're ready, you just take your time. You come on back the way you came. Let that grip go. Come roll onto your belly. You just take your time. Very nice. Very nice. Come back up onto hands and knees. You take your time getting there. And then from here, we're going to transition into downward facing dog. Down dog is like the most ubiquitous yoga pose. It's literally in so many different practices. And it's really hard. And so I think that there's a moment sometimes where you're like, man, I'm not trying to do this anymore. And so this might be your down dog. Hands and knees, this might be plenty today. If it feels good, you can walk your hands just a little bit ahead of the shoulder heads. Spread wide through your fingers. See that you've got your hands at about shoulder distance apart, maybe wider. Plug into your fingertip mounds, plug into your knuckles. Curl the toes under. And from here, I always like to reference the song Back That Ass Up by Juvenile because I feel like he really gets to the heart of the matter here. We're going to back that ass up. You're going to shift your hips up and back into downward facing dog. Just shift your pelvis up and back. Come on up. Downward face dog. Press your chest back towards your thighs. Breathing. This is an inversion, right? So if you start to feel like, whoa, boy, this is a lot. Like, I feel you. I feel you. That's real. Press your chest back towards your thighs. You can keep a pretty substantial bend in the knees here, a huge bend in the knees. Breathe. Relax the chin away from the chest. Oh. And then when you're ready, walk your hands back to meet your feet. So you're in a standing forward fold. Breathe. Very, very nice work, love. Very, very nice. Breathe. Now you got your hands down to the ground. And if you want, you can interlace the fingers behind your back. You can also grab for either elbow. This is a spot where if you have a yoga strap, I'm gonna grab a yoga strap. Or if you want to take your shirt off, literally, you can use that to get the grip behind you. But you're gonna hang loose in a forward fold here and let the arms drop down behind you. Breathing. Pretty substantial bend in the knees is nice here. And you can rock from side to side, right foot to left foot. Breathing. Release your jaw. And if you start to feel like you're gonna see stars, feel free to come up, but also just try to set in it. Just try to experience it all. Once you're ready, you can let go of that grip, drop the arms down, hang the arms down, put a huge bend in the knees, and then nice and easy, come on up, rise to stand, head comes up last, nice and easy, you just stack it on top. Very, very nice. Meet me up at the top of the mat. Take a moment here, bring your hands under your hips. Relax your shoulders. Breathe here. And then when you're ready, step your right leg out to the side, one leg's distance. So your feet are gonna be parallel with one another. All right, now let's hit quick warrior pose for strength, for grounding, for power today. So I've got my hands on my hips. I'm gonna put my hands literally inside of my leggings to get up underneath that fat roll. Get in touch with your body. I always say, if you can't touch your body, who can touch your body? Nobody can. Turn your right foot out so that it's parallel with the long edge of your mat. Your right heel is gonna come into the left arch of your foot. Press into your right big toe. Press into the back edge of your left foot. These are your anchor points. So from here, you got your hands on your hips. You get in there and you can feel your hip points right in there. Just dig into those suckers. Yes. All right, now from here, using your anchor legs, really press into that back leg. And then when you press into that back leg, you can sink deep into your front knee. So you start to bend deep into your front knee, and the right knee is gonna be in line with your right ankle. And you might have to wiggle your front foot forward or wiggle it back. And if you start to get into this and your body is like trembling and you're like, Jessamine, this is dumb. My body can't do this. That's the yoga. That's what you've been waiting for. That moment of trembling, of thinking like, I can't do this, that's the practice. Bring the arms out parallel to the ground. Press into the back edge of your foot. Press into your right big toe. You are this power. Gaze over your front fingertips. Breathe. You are a warrior. This is how you show up in every moment of life. Relax the shoulders away from the ears. And then extend that front knee straight. Parallel your feet. Let's go straight into the second side. Turn the left foot out, parallel with the long edge of your mat. Right foot is parallel with the short edge of your mat. Press into your left big toe. Sink deep into that front knee. Really press into the back edge of your right foot. Breathe. Try to line up that front knee, front ankle. Pelvis is turned out to the side. And this is really when you find that trembling. This is your power. This is your strength. Arms out, parallel to the ground. Gaze over your front fingertips. Breathe. Extend up through the crown of the head. Breathe. Relax your shoulders. Breathe. Sink a little bit deeper into that front knee. You have got this. You got it. Yes. And then when you're ready, extend that left knee straight. Parallel your feet. Put your hands on your hips. Step your right foot up to meet your left. Very nice. Inhale your arms up and overhead. Reach up, really look up at them. Exhale, forward fold over your legs. Heart comes down, hands come down. Come down onto your knees. Come to sit. You can either sit on your heels. You can sit on your butt. You find the position that makes sense for you. Palms are up to the sky on tops of your thighs. Close your eyes. Seal in this practice. You are mighty. You are strong. You are needed. Every piece of you is needed. Bring one hand over your heart. Bring the other hand over your heart. Drop your gaze down. The eyes are closed. Take a deep inhale through the nose. Exhale it out of your mouth. Let it go. Let the gaze come up. Blink your eyes open. The light in me sees and honors the light in you. And the darkness in me sees and honors the darkness in you. I'm so grateful for this opportunity that we've had to practice together. I'm so grateful for what you bring to this world. I look forward to practicing with you anytime in the future. Find me at theunderbelly.com. Find me on social media at my name is Jessamine. It's been such a pleasure kicking it with y'all today, and I look forward to seeing you soon. Have a great day.
What a way to start the day. Thank you so much, Jessamine, for taking the time to do that with us. And special thanks to Zara as well. Thank you both for a great session today. And thank you to all of you who joined us for this discussion. Remember, Mobilize Women will be taking place throughout the week, so mark your calendars for the next sessions, invite your friends, spread the word on social media using Mobilize Women Week as a hashtag, and show some love. A special thanks to our sponsors, RBC Wealth Management, Accenture, Guardian Life, Lincoln Financial Group, Unilever, NFP, Baker Hostetler, Columbia Business Group, London Stock Exchange Group, Fiera Capital, and MM LaFleur. We greatly appreciate your support. Our next session is called Technology and Bias, taking place at 4 p.m. Eastern Time today, featuring Raman Chaudhary, local global lead for responsible AI at Accenture Applied Intelligence, Megan Smith, the CEO of Shift7 and former U.S. Chief Technology Officer, and moderated by Karen Howe, Senior AI Reporter for MIT Technology Review. Don't forget to visit the experience page at www.mobilizewomen2020.com to get more insights and tools to reflect, learn, and turn today's discussion into real action. And finally, to take it one step further, we've partnered with the Civic Alliance, a growing nonpartisan network of more than 130 member companies that has come together to champion civic participation, meet the unique challenges of the 2020 election, and build momentum for higher voter turnout this November and beyond. Remember, your voice and your vote matters. So text Mobilize to 26797 to get help registering to vote, make a plan to vote, and keep track of voter deadlines. So that's all we have for you this morning. We'll see you this afternoon, and thank you so much for joining us.